This is an electric motorcycle. That is a regenerative property. And over the next 3 days, Vaden, Brent, and I are challenging ourselves to see what regenerative agriculture can look like here in Alberta. On day one, we got to explore an amazing urban farm and dine with our friends straight from their garden. On day two, we toured some amazing farms with insane innovations and were inspired by the conversations and meals that we had.
This is amazing.
This is so good.
This is so good. Yeah.
We work long hours and it's some tedious days, but nobody eats like this. I mean, we're so rich.
Amen.
And today, we're going to visit a really important project that uses the regeneration of plants to regenerate humans as well.
We're deploying as many technologies as we can to increase the amount of abundance that we can provide, which extends our reach deeper into the community.
Stay tuned for this heartwarming episode.
All right, so where are you taking us today, Vaden?
We're heading up to Hull Services, which is the school I work at. There's a project there that we've been working on for around 5 years. Market Garden has passed a solar greenhouse, and we're developing about 3 or 4 acres into like an outdoor classroom space.
Nice. Exciting.
Awesome.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing.
Well, Vaden, the campus is a lot bigger than I expected.
Yeah, so the school was designed to service kids with complex mental health needs. So initially, the kids were coming from campus, and then in the mid to late 70s, we opened up seats for kids that are from the Calgary Board of Education or the Catholic Board. Enrollment is around 100 kids on any given year.
Is the garden close to here?
Yeah, we'll take you there now.
Okay.
I'll introduce you to Joel. He's a good friend of mine, also works for Hull Services in the Pathways to Prevention department. Hey, Joel.
Hey.
Guys, this is Joel Pippus.
Hey, Joel, nice to meet
Joel,
you.
this is Rob Avis
Nice to meet you.
and Brent Boucher.
Nice to meet you.
So we're standing in our main plot here at Hull Services. It's growing a little bit every year. We kind of expand into other beds, but we use kind of modern market garden technologies. We're using multiple different types of row covers. We have the caterpillar tunnel. We also have a passive solar greenhouse, which extends our grow season 4 seasons. The food being produced is being used by the kids here and their families. So we're deploying as many technologies as we can to increase the amount of abundance that we can provide, which extends our reach deeper into the community.
I mean, the garden looks massive. Who's all taking care of this thing?
So over the summer, honestly, there's people that just want to take the opportunity to volunteer and support community partnerships. It's a great way to keep everything healthy and going throughout the summer, and also a really great way to help folks in the community understand stuff like this exists and they can be a part of it.
That's mutually
Amazing.
beneficial for sure.
Totally,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a great therapeutic tool, both for the staff that work here and the kids that have access to it.
Right.
And one thing we notice is that kids will access the space independently now. So if they're struggling in the classroom, now more and more kids are like, I need to go to the garden for a bit. I need to go to the greenhouse for a bit. And anyone that knows about passive solar greenhouse design, it has a certain feel to it that's really therapeutic for the kids. So we can pop over there and I can show you what we're dealing with in there.
Let's take a look.
This is one of my favorite greenhouses.
Yeah, no doubt.
Wow.
So Vaden, why don't you tell us a little bit about what makes a passive solar greenhouse?
So passive solar greenhouse, very basically, is ICF foundation wall, highly insulated on 3 sides and glazing on the southeast side. So basically what you're doing is collecting solar radiation during the day. So the pipes that run inside the greenhouse run down to the subsoils. When the greenhouse heats up, fans kick on, they collect that heat from the greenhouse and pull it down into the subsoils. And then when it gets cold at night, it pushes that heat back into the greenhouse.
Let's take a quick walk around and look at some of the plants and see all these systems that you got going on in here.
Sure. And tomatoes on this wall, these guys are a little bit out of control. They're actually pushing the windows out, trying to climb out. The big thing for us, like I mentioned, is food production. So these type of systems, whether it's the tunnel outside or the passive solar greenhouse, allows us to supply the kids that we work with the food that they need that generally they don't have at home. So now we're standing in front of the greenhouse. We're actually standing on the site of a new development that we're really excited about that's happening this year. We're putting in a big pond.
Nice.
So the pond design, of course, will include all the elements that we want to round out our ecosystem with. There's tons of sensory activities for the kids to do. There will have sit spots that are around the pond, nice and quiet, regulating spots for the kids. So there's lots of great programming available for kids here at Hull Services that use the same therapeutic modality. Joel's program over at the skate park called Push to Heal is a phenomenal program on campus, and I think we should probably head over there, Joel, and take a look.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
Can you tell me a little bit about Push to Heal, how it works, and the inspiration and vision behind it?
Yeah, totally. We had a park built as a memorial to a young man who'd passed away from an overdose, and they felt like skateboarding had been a healthy thing in his life. So they built the Matt Bannister Memorial Skate Park here on our campus. I think similar to what Vaden experienced with the greenhouse and garden. Right away, as soon as we had kids in that environment, we saw that it was impacting the treatment they were receiving.
Right.
We use the work of Dr. Bruce Perry and the neurosequential network. So the neurosequential model gives us this lens of how to understand brain development and trauma, and basically how the day-to-day work we do with kids is impacted by those things.
Cool.
Skateboarding, being in the garden, it's a full brain activity. And if we understand that it works that way, we can start to use those things intentionally and skillfully. And then time in the skate park or time spent in the greenhouse in the garden is as clinically significant as a part of their treatment as, you know, sitting with a therapist. And the staff too, there's a huge benefit for staff that are excited and passionate about these things, and then the kids get the best version of the staff because they're happier and more regulated, and it just impacts so many things.
Yeah, and they're doing the same stuff together. I mean, that's
exactly.
We do have people to meet back in the garden. There's some people from Fleur and our team at Hull Services. There's a chef there to prepare us a little bit of a salad, and we're going to sit and have a nice chat there about some of the things that we're doing and we're excited about.
Great.
Let's
Nice.
go take
Yeah,
a look.
let's go.
Guys. Hey, I'm Brent.
Hey, Vic.
Where's Webb? Nice to meet you.
Denise, nice to meet you.
Hey, Josh.
How's it going?
Good.
Made you guys a little taste of the garden salad.
Nice.
Wow.
This is Josh Jones. He's with Fresh Kitchen. So we've been working with Josh for a couple years.
When everything was growing about 30 minutes ago, so
There you
you
go.
don't get much fresher than
That's
that.
pretty much the best it gets. The flavor in these vegetables is just second to none.
Yes, so good.
It all starts in the soil, and it really truly does. And the way that we treat our soils is reflected directly into the quality of the food that we produce. So maybe Denise, if you want to tell us a little bit about what we've seen as an organization integrating the garden into our therapeutic milieu here.
Well, I can't help but think about sort of the parallels that it sort of draws on when we talk about the therapeutic value of gardening in general, right? They needed some support that was a little bit more natural in its way. And so kind of like you talked a little bit about the soil and how it was really hard to get to and hard to get to a place where you could grow stuff. It makes me kind of think about the kids, right? It makes me think about how when we get them, they've been unfortunately been exposed to lots of sometimes neglect and abuse, trauma histories, whatever it might be, but there's still possibility around that growth, right? And so the more we work at that in a way that makes sense, that meets their sensory needs, that helps them get regulated with relationships, and we're in the garden together, the more hope I have around them consolidating the skills that they're learning, and even as simple as the vegetables, but more importantly, how there's some hope for their therapeutic growth as well, just like the hope you have around the soil and what it's going to continue to produce.
There's a lot of parallels there, right?
Yeah, and if you think of an organization that serves young people who are sort of the deepest end of the pool around their challenges with mental health and behavior, and sometimes people forget if we peel it back to what is just really naturally supportive of their growth, that might yield better results than just having them go to a counseling room for an hour and a half every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
just look at the ability that, nutritional value brings for opening up the minds, for actually being able to pull in the education. Vaden brings a good story. He told us, like, a lot of times some of the kids that come in haven't seen the vegetables, right? And then you start building, the first thing they want to build is that nutritional basis again. And then once that's, open and more available, then the education is easier to pull in. So
when did Fleur get involved?
the big initiative kind of happened in 2015 when Fleur kind of started getting involved deeply with Hull. I think that initial ask was, look what we're trying to do here. And does Fleur want to get involved with something that's not just so important in the community, but for the kids, and, maybe create potentially a blueprint in future, I guess, of, can we do this in other places? And this just falls right in line with stuff that Fleur wants to do, is build sustainable communities that has a lasting impact, not just simply donating hours of employees' time or potentially funding certain projects. That's actually wanting to be involved and be a partner in these kind of projects.
And I think it makes sense because it really captures what Dr. Perry would refer to and what we understand is a sequence of engagement, right? That we believe that when you engage kids in an activity that supports their regulation, while they're in the context of a relationship, that's going to help, again, access toward that thinking part of their brain so we can develop those problem-solving skills and, maybe some impulse control from time to time.
We could have had a garden attached to the school and it would have been great for the kids even if we didn't have this other layer. It just would have been beneficial. But adding the neurosequential model, Dr. Perry's work, and understanding why it works is a core piece of what will allow us to replicate it in other situations. So that's been a big adjustment for the school, right? That's an adjustment in education to not just talk at kids, but to regulate them first, to make sure they're in the context of a relationship that feels safe, and then try to do some problem solving, try to make some changes that'll impact the rest of their life.
The next step for us as an organization, as it relates to the garden, is to build this system out, to prove the system as effective, meaning we can produce, X amount of pounds of food per year on a quarter acre with this little ecosystem that we've created, and start templating that system and delivering it to other organizations. Another thing we experienced over the last 3 days was when you sit down at a table with a farmer, you realize that food scarcity is maybe not even a real thing. There's abundance to be had. And we're blessed being in Canada with beautiful growing conditions, great soil. There's abundance to be had, but we have to reconnect back to the land and back to our farmers and empower them to make good decisions about the way that they're growing nutrient-dense food. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you guys. Let's finish up the salad and then we can hit the road.
Thanks
for having us.
Thank you.
Vaden, thanks so much for taking us around your project. That was really, really inspiring.
Yeah, well, it was a great weekend. We put on a lot of kilometers and met a lot of great people.
Yeah. A great way to end the day would be to go get a cold beer at Establishment Brewery. Let's head over there right now.
Brent, you know those guys?
My neighbors.
Dave, thanks for having us over at Establishment Brewing. Tell us a little bit about the business. How long have you guys been in operation?
We opened in January of 2019, and prior to that, we'd been brewing beer at home and exploring craft beer for about a decade, and just decided we wanted to take our passion a little bit further, and we thought we had something unique to offer in the brewing industry in Calgary.
I think you guys even won Brewer of the Year, didn't you?
In 2021, we won Canadian Brewery of the Year, and then a couple months later, we were recognized as Alberta Brewery of the Year. So that was a particularly good year for us.
Oh, nice.
Kind of amazing that you guys are able to do that and incorporate being, regenerative, using some of the regen hops.
I think something that's very important is supporting local farmers, small-scale agricultural production. And some of those producers face sort of the same barriers that we do.
For sure they do.
In terms of competing in a very large industry.
So you home brewing at home in your basement and giving your beer to friends is kind of like all the homesteaders out there that are growing food and can't make a living with it yet because there's too many barriers before they can really crack open the doors and change the food system. So can you tell us a little bit about the beer and what kind of ingredients are in here, and specifically who produces the malt for this?
This beer is called Skyrocket. This is a New England IPA, so this is a relatively new beer style in terms of like the history of beer. The beer is brewed to have a fuller body, a little bit less bitterness, and lots of hop flavor, but the malt plays a really important role in the balance. The beer is primarily like Alberta two-row barley, and then a good component of the ingredients come from Hogarth Malting. They produce a product called chit malt.
Yeah, I know Hogarth is super cool. They're actually interested in combining malting with regenerative agriculture. We were helping them with a project that they're now operating right now, and I think it's great that they're seeing success in the brewing industry, and I've seen them show up in a bunch of different beers now, and it's cool.
Well, from one wood neighbor to another, I just appreciate you guys having us out, and yeah, cheers.
Happy to share. Thanks.
Well, first of all, what an amazing trip. It was tons of fun.
It was a laugh.
There's so many amazing people doing really cool stuff.
Yeah, and the bikes were a nice touch, I thought.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was super fun riding between places.
I think the human aspect was really interesting. Like there's obviously a need for community with Regen Ag. Like the technical stuff is we know a lot about what to do in a Regen Ag situation, but the community piece, the people piece really kind of stood out for me.
It was interesting to see the fact that we didn't see just one demographic of business or people, right? We saw a whole bunch of different avenues of business, right? So, seeing regenerative farmers to regenerative brewers, and we're doing, regen in a sense with electric motorcycles and all the correlations of that, and then regenerative on humans. Yeah, that was really cool to see all the correlations and the same threads come together.
Yeah, we're all kind of living separate lives, but there's so many connections between all these different urban, rural, and all the kind of subcategories that you talked about there. They're all connected in some way.
So I think as we wrap things up, what should we be doing in our respective fields? And even if you're just a consumer or someone who's interested in regenerative agriculture, what should we be doing?
I think for the urbanite, I think one thing that you made really clear was it's a two-way relationship. And so if you want to eat good food, you have to buy good food. And that kept coming out over and over again with all the farmers.
I think not being so disconnected from whatever it is, right? If it's getting local beer, or if it's getting, great quality food with nutrients in it, or even a motorcycle. We're all small boutique businesses, and we want to feed families, and we want to feed our staff, and we want to feed the actual people out there getting good quality service, right?
And quality comes sometimes at a premium.
For sure, and that's okay.
But the quality of the service or the quality of the product is reflected in that premium. And I think people have to be willing to accept that a little more.
Yeah, when you pay that premium, you're also buying clean air and clean water and better soil, not just the product that you end up getting at the end of the day. And so we need to, if we want a cleaner, better world, we need to work with our producers and give them a premium for their product, because they're not just selling us food. There's so many more things coming off of that farm.
Yeah, and you could see the passion bleed off of those people. They're alive, they're regen in a sense, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on this trip with us, guys.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thank you.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us on this incredible journey across Calgary and Central Alberta as we visited these regenerative projects. Subscribe to us out on our other socials, where you'll find all sorts of amazing news on regenerative projects around the world. Thanks so much, and we'll see you guys in a future video.